Isabella, let's get started. Why poetry? Why did you decide to write poetry?
I think that poetry in and of itself is an art, and I think that when it comes to the human experience, everybody gravitates towards some sort of art. And so writing and poetry has been kind of like my totem to reality, and just something that is an outlet for me to express myself and my feelings. And doing that in art is something that I think is beautiful and powerful. So
is it just poetry that you write, or are there other art forms that you kind of explore?
So I do poetry, but I also I write in general. I would say poetry, and then also just narrative. My second book is actually a narrative with a little bit of poetry in it. So I'm kind of trying to branch out from just poetry. But poetry is definitely kind of where the strong suit, you could say, is with me. But I do enjoy various forms of other writing.
So how did you come to writing poetry? Where did it all start?
So the story is a little funny, actually, but when I was in third grade, there was this poetry competition at our community college in this really small town in Wisconsin. And my dad and I actually sat down and wrote we wrote a poem about a bald eagle, and I won it. And so from then
nice.
on,
congratulations.
Yeah, I think it was out of 500 kids. I think.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So what inspires you? What motivates you to be like, oh, I'm gonna pick up the pen and write about that? Do you did it just come naturally, or?
Yeah, I mean, it's heavily influenced by my emotions. In full transparency and honesty, kind of have a hard time writing things when I'm feeling really happy, because I usually use poetry to kind of describe my mental illness. I was diagnosed with depression and generalized anxiety disorder and PTSD when I was 17, which that's kind of when I, started to really go through the trenches of mental illness and mental health. So, sometimes when I'm having those big emotions all over again, instead of, kind of self-destructing, one would say, I pick up the pen and I write about it, because I know hundreds of thousands even millions of people deal with mental illness. So kind of my motto is, if I'm helping one person when I'm writing, myself, and helping someone else, that's really it. That's what matters. But yeah, I would say mental illness and my emotions, and also kind of, I'm a very nostalgic person, so reminiscing on past conversations, that's a big motivation and inspiration for me.
I wanted to ask you who your sort of influences are, but not necessarily just poets. Maybe you have musicians or philosophers and stuff. Who would you say your three biggest influences are, and why? If you don't mind.
That's a hard one. That is so
and
hard.
Why, if you don't mind?
Oh yeah, it might take me a second because there's so many. Gosh, I think, when it comes down to it, my number one influence is going to be my dad. He had me later in life. He is 73 and I'm 21. So he had me in his 50s. So he lived an entire life before he had my little sister and I. And just the amount of wisdom that I've learned from him, and him being a writer himself and a reader, and just the stories that he's told and how he can tell them. He's also, he's incredible. And when it comes to what influenced me, I always say I have his literature brain, just his need and want to express himself that can help other people. He used to do youth leadership workshops,
Nice.
and had his own company, which was successful. And there was always this, he had this sheet of paper that was like an optical illusion that they would do, and he'd give it to you, and I'll have to send you a picture of it or something.
Okay.
But you have to tilt it a certain way, and it says at first you don't see, and then you tilt it again, and it says, but then someone helps, and then the next page is like, and then it makes sense. Kind of this, you know, sometimes you need a helping hand to see things from a bigger perspective, or, you know, whenever I'm going through something that's really weighing on me, he'll be like, you're looking at it like this, you need to take a step back and really evaluate that. That has really changed my life.
Talking about books, let's talk about your book, When the Cicadas Return. How did it come about?
So the story is kind of funny. So my eldest sister, Zandria, she and I were on the phone, and she said that, she's like, oh, if I would have done my life differently, I would have wrote a book about this family, and the cicada follows them for 17 years, because cicadas hibernate. Don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure they hibernate for 17 years at a time. So, for example, like it would be the cicada watching this family, and it hibernates, and then it comes up 17 years later and looks at all the changes. And I said, you know, why don't I write a book? Why don't I make that the title? What do you think? And she said, do it. So I kind of created my own meaning to it, meaning that for me, I wrote about from, you know, the cicada kind of hibernating for 17 years following me, in the sense of I'm the cicada where I was on autopilot for most of my life. And when I moved to now Oregon, I kind of got to reflect on that. So in myself, it was kind of this parallel between, you know, hibernating, being on autopilot, and then, you know, coming up from underneath the ground and observing everything that has changed it, and really feeling those feelings, because I really did not let myself feel those feelings. I was so scared to feel. I was numb. So the book really is about kind of ages 3 to 20, about that 17-year span, and what I looked back on and what I had really felt in those moments, because I couldn't at that time.
That is a very good answer. Sorry, I've got a hairband wrapped around my fingers. I went to do that, and I've got a hairband.
Oh no worries.
Brilliant. Well, that pretty much wraps it up with us. So if any of our readers kind of want to find you on the internet and kind of get to know you more and buy your book, where can they find you?
So my TikTok is Isabella Fay, Fayv, and same thing for my Instagram. And then when it comes to like direct messaging, my business email is isabellafay.writings@gmail.com.
Perfect. And it will all be in the description anyway, but it's always good to get you to say it, but all the links will be in the description anyway. Perfect. So Isabella, thank you so much. I wish you all the best with your second book. And
thank you. I would love to send you a copy.
Definitely. Please do.
Perfect.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
All right, have a good one.
And you.
Bye.